ship that brought William Penn to Philadelphia. This is City Tavern. We're going to take a right here. City Tavern was where, when the Declaration of Independence was being discussed, and the Constitution later was being discussed, and all the ideas for the new government, the Founding Fathers would have dinner at City Tavern and discuss the issues of the day. This building was built much later in the early 1800s as a commodities exchange, and we were no longer copying English architecture. It's a copy of Greek architecture. This is a typical row house block. Most of the buildings in Philadelphia in the 1600s all the way to present day are made of brick. And this is a tradition that William Penn started because he had lived through the fire of London and he did not want his city destroyed by fire. So of course brick is fireproof. And he also laid out the grids for the city so as sort of a fire stop. So you get to the end of the block and the fire stops. And you can see that this is called Flemish bond, where the brick is kind of dark and then light. And there's entrances to the cellar. Well, cellars were very important in colonial times because they were cooler, and that's where you kept your vegetables and your wine. There's another building built in the early 1800s that resembles a Greek temple. That was a federal bank. The first federal bank was started by Alexander Hamilton, who's quite famous these days. Okay, now we are at Independence Hall. Very, very slow, Bob. So this is where the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, and then in 1787, this is where the Constitution was debated and finally signed. So this is arguably, I think, not even arguably, the most important building in the country. The two buildings on either side of it were used when the Philadelphia was the capital of the country, while Washington, D.C. was being built from 1790 to 1800. The building we're looking at right now was used by Congress of the United States. The representatives sat on the first floor, the Senate on the second floor. The building on the other side of the square was used by the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, coming up on your left is Washington Square. It was one of the original squares laid out by William Penn. He laid out 5 squares in the city. And for years it was used as a burial ground for poor people. During the Revolution, Philadelphia was occupied by the British for a while. And you're going to take a right on 7th Street. And during that time, captured American soldiers who died in captivity were buried here in Washington Square. So it's hallowed ground. There's a statue of William Penn, George Washington, of course, the head of the Revolutionary War Army, and a flame, an eternal flame that burns all the time in the honor of the Revolutionary War soldiers.